I'm glad to be here again. The title of my presentation has changed. I'm not going to present the one I was planning to present because I had some excellent hour yesterday with Jerry and Ed. And while talking to them, I found out that I have to change this presentation. So I'm going to talk about the future. I think that what is interesting for all of us is the future. So I'm not really sure about this presentation because actually what happened is that we had some really excellent Ava and I took half of a bottle back to my hotel and I drank it and I started to type the presentation again while I was carried away by the Ava that Jerry prepared for us. So we'll see what happens. But yes, please. Anyway, yes. Anyway, it's true that the industry is going through a crisis. The good thing with crisis is that they don't last. They are just crises. If you ask me, I think that this is quite good for the long term of the Ava industry. Because I sincerely believe that the industry was on the wrong track. The industry was guided by some Western companies who had an idea of what kava could be for them and their consumers. But this idea is completely different to what kava is in the South Pacific. So I think before we start thinking about the future, we have to go back to basics and try to understand what kava is exactly. You say that I have to press on this?
The trigger on the bottom.
This has nothing to do with Ava, huh?
We've answered for you.
Now what I can do is I can put my mouse.
What did you drink last night?
This has changed. This has changed.
Just
Give it to me, just tell me, or you can just tell me, and
Which one did you
I'll
put?
press it manually. No, I press the enter key here.
If you put the USB thing in, that activates the ring.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
Anyway, this is a definition that is going to be enforced by law in Vanuatu. Because we found out that we are talking about so many different things. And when we talk about kava, you might think about something which is completely different to what we mean. So this is a definition of kava, and you can see that it is already very complex because it is referring to two different things at a time. It is referring to a plant species, Piper metisticum, which is highly variable and quite complex to analyze. We have seen it today. And it is referring to a traditional beverage. And this traditional beverage is also quite variable and quite complex and sophisticated to produce properly. So the definition is already complex. So let's make sure that we don't make it more complex than what it is. Kava is this and nothing else. So this has to be clear. It's going to be enforced by law, passed in Parliament in Vanuatu, and we are going to do what the French farmers are doing with champagne. When an Australian grower is claiming to grow champagne, we'll sue them. If someone is using or misusing the word kava for something which is not this, we will be able to sue them. Because enough is enough. This is all what kava is. So now, let's go into these two different parts of the definition. Piper metisticum, highly complex. More than 130 varieties throughout the South Pacific. They are quite variable morphologically. They are very different chemically. And they have very different physiological effects. So already, what are we talking about? Next one. Isa, the famous Isa, is one of the 4 different varieties they have in Papua New Guinea. It's probably one of the worst ones. Unfortunately for you guys, there are some better ones in Papua New Guinea. And Isa is not a good one. In Vanuatu, we have about 80 different varieties. Some are called noble kava. They will be legal to be cultivated and offered for sale in Vanuatu. Some others will be illegal because we suspect that part of this mess is related to the origin of the raw material. I'll come back to that later. Anyway, among these 80 different varieties, some are for daily drinking, some are for some specific medicinal uses, and you just cannot drink them. I would not recommend that you try. Okay, they are quite nasty. And you can see that in Hawaii you have about 11 or more, maybe 13 or whatever. In Hawaii you are quite lucky. Most of your varieties, if not all, I'm talking about the Hawaiian varieties. Isa is not an Hawaiian variety. Most of the Hawaiian varieties, all of the Hawaiian varieties are good. The Hawaiians were smart guys. When they traveled from the Marquesas of Tahiti all the way to here, they took the good stuff with them. Okay, so everything that was introduced here is good. I mean, in Vanuatu, we would classify them as noble varieties, which is something you can drink every day and all the days of the year round. You can drink them. Next one.
Question about the varieties. Is that endemic to those particular islands, or, for instance, the one variety in Kushtrai also is one of the 2 that's in one of them?
Yes. Genetically, kava, I don't want to talk about that today, but kava is quite complex in a sense that it's a decaploid with 130 chromosomes, 10 times the set of chromosomes. We have only 2 sets, one from our father, one from our mother. Kava has 10 sets of chromosomes, 130 chromosomes. And it tends to accumulate mutations quite easily. So we call these varieties morphotypes or chemotypes. They are types resulting from a selection process which is ongoing. So you can introduce variety X from Tahiti to the Marquesas. After centuries of selection, try and error, propagation, and so forth, it becomes variety Y, which looks different with a different chemical composition. There is genotype and environment interaction, and the human pressure on the genome is so strong that it's changing the gene expression. So basically, they all originated from Vanuatu, but they have been distributed throughout the South Pacific, and while they were cultivated somewhere, they were changing, evolving, to satisfy the local needs and to adapt to the local environment. So this is what they are. When you look at them, obviously you can see they are different. The next one, please. You can see some are completely black, some are completely green, and from the chemical composition it's going to be the same. Go ahead. Different pattern, go ahead. Different shapes of leaves, go ahead. So these different varieties were selected to satisfy different traditional uses. Kava in the Pacific is a panacea. It's a drink, but it's also a medicinal plant. It's a medicinal plant to cure different symptoms or diseases. Headache, diarrhea, arthritis, infection of the urinogenital organs, whatever. But different varieties are used for different purposes. This is very important because this is how it is used. They have different physiological properties because they have different cavalactone content and compositions. And what Dr. Tang said this morning is very true. The variation do not occur in kava lactones only. It occurs somewhere else, but we cannot report it to you because it's not documented. Kava lactone represents a part of the chemical spectrum. So there are many other compounds that have not been documented so far that are also variable. In other words, just like you have different vines, good ones, bad ones, red ones, white ones, you have different varieties of kava. Next one, please. Different kava lactone contents present different physiological properties. I'll go fast because this has been well presented by Dennis. And this is why they have different uses. Now, what we call the pharmacological effect, or the intensity, is chemotype dependent. DHM is really something you want to avoid. Traditional knowledge indicates that we want to reduce as much as possible the DHM amount in a kava lactone in order to drink more of it. So there is a direct correlation with the amount you can drink and the DHM content. This is quite important for you because once you know that, you know which variety you are using, and therefore you can deduct what kind of use you can promote with this variety. Now, if the quality of the effect, euphoria, anxiety relieving, is related to the chemical composition, the intensity of the effect is related to the amount of kava lactone present in the beverage that you are ingesting. These are two different things, and it's very important for you to understand that the quality is quite complex. We are talking about the quality of a physiological effect, well-being, and the intensity of this effect, coming very fast, very intense, and disappearing or lasting. So these are two different things. It's very different than alcohol because with wine you might have the taste, with kava you also have the taste, but I will not talk about that now. But the physiological effect is related to those two different things. Yes. Now, this chemical composition we have shown that it is genetically controlled. Now, if you take variety X and you plant it in different islands, say Moi. You take Moi, you plant it in Hawaii, Maui, Molokai, you will have the same chemotype. Now, you might not have the same kava lactone content. Chemotype will be the same. I'm talking about the chemotype of the roots, the underground organs non-exposed to light. Let's go back to the initial definition. The traditional beverage is prepared with the underground organs. The traditional beverage, kava, is never ever prepared with the upper parts. So when I'm talking about the chemotype of kava, I'm talking about the chemotype of the roots. The chemotype of the aerial part is changing. We have seen it this morning with Klaus or Scott presentation. So what is useful is the chemotype of the underground organs. Some of them have up to 25% kavain. These are excellent varieties. Next. Kava lactone content, on the other side, varies with age, environment, cultivation practice, and the organ of the plant. In fact, we are going to enforce by law in Vanuatu that farmers will not be able to uproot a plant that has less than 3 years. They will not be able to sell to a local kava bar a plant that has not at least 3 years of age. And middlemen will not be able to export a plant that has not at least 5 years of age. This is going to be enforced by law. So after 18 months, it's reaching a plateau, but in order to secure this kava lactone contents, we are putting a limit. And the limit before you can harvest a plant is 3 years. Next, please. Now, kava-lactone contents represent only 10 to 15% of the dry matter weight of the underground organ. Sometimes 17, 80, sometimes in exceptional cases 20%. I would tend to say only 20%. It's quite amazing. The scientific world is making a big noise about 20% of the whole chemical composition. I believe that in the aqueous fraction, there are a lot of compounds others than kava-lactones which are very important. But what happened is that when the scientists, Europeans or Americans or Westerners, started to investigate kava, they imported dry matter. They could have it in the lab, extract the molecules with the solvents, and study it. But Dr. Tang was saying this morning, and it's very true, it's very difficult to study the aqueous fraction. But the traditional beverage is an aqueous fraction. In other words, I would tend to say that science doesn't know much about kava. Because kava is not the lipid-like extract. Kava, if you go back to the original definition, kava is an aqueous solution. So therefore, science doesn't know much. Let's face it, because science has investigated these lipid-like compounds. Yes? Now, the story is even more complex. In fact, we have different traditional beverages. Different ones. You have the one you drink on the spot with the farmer. This is what we do in Vanuatu, what farmers do in Vanuatu. They go to the garden, plant their taros, their yam, their sweet potatoes, whatever. They uproot a kava plant, they go back to their village around 4 or 5 p.m. They drink what they have harvested few hours before. When you drink this, the color is light green, the smell is very pleasant, it can be surprising for you, but the taste is very good. Good kava tastes good. But good kava is very difficult to taste because you can taste it only on the spot few hours after harvest, but the next day it's already bad kava. The same one is already bad because oxidation is already going on, the color is changing, some compounds, polyphenol oxidase, tannins are already interfering with the taste and the colors and so forth. So it's not the good kava anymore. So on the spot, it's fresh, the taste is good, the color is light. In Vanuatu kava bars, it's terrible. This is what I drink every day. The color is dark because where I live, there are no kava farms. So the plants are harvested in islands located far away. It takes days for the boats to come with these stems. And by the time they arrive in town, they are completely oxidized, and this is what we drink. But it's still fresh kava, but the color is very dark, the taste is very oxidized, the physiological effect is still there. But it's not what I call good kava, although I drink it every day. In Ponape, it's a different story again. They almost do not add water. They press it with hibiscus tiliaceus mucilage. You feel like drinking shampoo. It's really thick. It's a different traditional beverage. Next one, please. In Fiji, this is not what I call kava. It's yongona. Yongona, it's made from the dried underground organs of Piper metisticum. So all the volatile compounds and many kava-lactones have been probably oxidized and the composition has been changed and so forth. So this is already a different traditional beverage. It's like a tea. It's a kava tea. In New Caledonia, this is a very interesting situation. They import about 500 tons, metric tons of dry roots to satisfy 200 bars in a country which is very similar as Hawaii. Cosmopolitan, Haoles, Melanesians, Vietnamese, Javanese, everybody goes to the kava bars and they drink something which is terrible. Dry roots imported from Vanuatu, dried in poor hygiene conditions. I mean, it's a disaster. The rats are running on this, and I'm not going to give you the details. It's terrible. Anyway, they import this, they soak them in water, and then they grind them. So they grind kava, but they grind lichens, mosses, molds, fungi, everything which is there, and they squeeze it, and they sell it at a very high price, and everybody drinks it. If it was something else, half of the country would be dead by now, because it's just unreal. But it's very popular, and surprisingly, Dennis, you can add that to your list. France has banned kava. It's illegal to be sold in France. Official decision of the French government to follow the German. Oh, the Germans say that something is wrong, let's ban it. Okay, so they ban it under all its forms. It's illegal. Then someone say, what about New Caledonia then? It's a French territory. What are you going to do? Oh no, down there it's economically so important that it's going to be legal. So in New Caledonia it's legal, but in France it's not. Anyway, whatever you are referring to, fresh or dried, even in Fiji, we peel kava. We have to peel it, except in New Caledonia where they don't. We believe that we have to peel kava. Everybody does it. 2 reasons. 1, color. 2, taste. But taste is associated with other compounds. The color is very dark when you don't peel it. But the taste is very bitter when you don't peel it. And in the bark, there are a lot of compounds that are not in the roots. I think it's very clear from Klaus' work. And also, peeling kava is a way of cleaning it, because you might ingest eggs of worms or whatever, which are on the bark. But what we have found is that everything which is exposed to light, and where there is some green compounds, photosynthetic activity going on, is bad. That's why farmers tend to heal up their kava several times a year to make sure that they are covering as much as they can the stem and the roots, and protect the stems and the roots to be exposed to the sunlight. So therefore they can sell more per plant, more good kava, and reduce the amount that will have to be cut and peeled away because it has been exposed to light. So peelings have to be removed. It's okay. Now something that my friends in the pharmaceutical industry or nutraceutical industry don't want to understand. These guys have big companies with a setup of big machines putting ginkgo, echinacea, St. John wort, everything in a pill or a capsule or a tablet. Now they say, oh, let's go to the South Pacific, buy kava and put it in a tablet and sell it, and it will work. Especially if you put kava on it. That's in their mind. Well, what these people don't understand is that these lipid-like compounds have to be in a very fine emulsion, suspension in water, in order to be bioavailable. In other words, when you buy a tablet, it's written 100 milligrams. I'm sorry to tell you that your blood might get maybe 30 or 10 milligrams. You are buying for 100, but you are getting 10 or 30, and the rest is going down the drain. When I started my work in the early 80s, I was producing in my lab big capsules of 1 gram of chloroform extract. If I have a problem with my liver now, I will know where it comes from. 1 gram, which is the equivalent of 3 coconut shells, cups. I was ingesting this capsule, relaxing, waiting, nothing was happening? Nothing. I could turn off the light and wait and whatever. Nothing. 1 gram of cavalactone. It was going through and getting out, and my blood was not getting it. With half a coconut shell, which is about 250 milliliters, I have about 250 milligrams, I am getting the effect, because cavalactones are very similar to alcohol in a way. They go through the membrane directly into the bloodstream, and within 5 or 10 minutes, if the kava is good, you can feel the effect. So these companies do not want to acknowledge the delivery system. This is a serious constraint for them. It's true that cavalactones are physiologically active, but to put them into the blood, it's a different story. And that's a major problem for them. And they never acknowledge it, and they don't want to discuss it because they have the apparatus all set up for ginkgo, echinacea, and other things, and they are making money with it, so why should they change? Next one. That's what I say. They have to be suspended in water. If they are encapsulated, they are very slowly digested. Part of them, if not most of them, are not assimilated. Next. Now, fresh ava juice. This is a completely different story, because if you look at the cells of the plant, you have micro droplets of cavalactone in each cell, billions of cells. When you grind it, you produce a very fine emulsion of tiny droplets. That's why you always drink ava with an empty stomach. It's always recommended to drink ava with an empty stomach. And these billions of micro droplets are going to go through the membrane very rapidly into the bloodstream, and you will have cavalactones and other things, I believe, into the blood. And that's why the effect is so fast. Within 5 or 10 minutes, you have the relaxing effect that you will never get with a capsule. Next one. This is very important. I want to emphasize this. Remember the definition that is going to be enforced by law in Vanuatu. If you put something in a capsule, you cannot call it ava. I'm sorry. It's not kava. We are talking about different things here. Next one. I am sorry to have to say that, because the owner of this company is not here, but this is an offense to Vanuatu culture. Nakama is the name, the house of the man, where we meet every day at the end of the day to share kava and to discuss social issues, to discuss cultural issues. This is not kava nakama. They are misusing it. They are using the prestigious word of kava or ava to sell these tablets or pill, but what they are selling, it's not kava, it's not ava. We cannot accept this. These are different things. They are different products. They should be called something else. If you put dry raisins in a pill, can you call it wine? I'm sorry, this is quite important. Definitions are quite important. If not, we have some misunderstanding. And this is what's going on right now. Next one, please. Same with those. Next. This, it's not traditional kava. I don't know if the owner of this company is here. With all my respect, this is not traditional kava. This photo was taken few minutes before it exploded. I'm one of the explosives. This is dry powder mixed with water in a bottle. We never do that. Even in Fiji, they don't do that. They put the powder, they mix it with water, they squeeze it, and they drink the juice. And this got bigger and bigger and bigger, and finally exploded. So, sorry, this is not traditional kava. It's important for you to know what kava is, and for all of us, because we want to put the industry on the right track. Next one, please.
It's fermented kava.
Maybe. Now, let's face it, there are 3 different markets. It's true. Like it or not, there are 3 different markets. The beverage, which is the one we had for thousands of years in the South Pacific, and the nutraceutical and the pharmaceutical. Now, pharmaceutical, let's start with pharmaceutical. Last month, Schwab, the German company, they came back to Vanuatu and they told us we are going to cancel all the contracts we have with you growers because we don't know what the future is. It's a very risky situation. Our scientists have done their homework. They believe that there is no side effect. We have demonstrated it. The German health authority don't want to listen. We are convinced that there is no side effect, but we cannot take the risk because now such a big noise has been made that if one day there is something for real, all the lawyers will be on our back. And it will cost us so much that we don't want to take the risk anyway. So we are canceling everything. Next. Beverage. Unfortunately, it's quantity versus quality. The population in Vanuatu is going to double over the next 23 years, probably because the males are suffering from liver damage. The population is very healthy, apparently. It's going to double. The market is going to expand. Throughout the South Pacific, the market is expanding. We are exporting even to Australia and New Zealand and elsewhere. So it's an expanding market, but the hygiene is very poor. And that's a major problem. And it's quite sad to say, but people tend to forget the traditional knowledge. Now they're just interested into getting a strong kick as fast as possible. That's what they drink kava like they drink alcohol. They are looking for the physiological effect. It's sad to say, but traditional knowledge is eroding, and that's a problem. There is very limited value added because packaging is poor, processing is very poor, and there is no new products. As I said, what we are drinking in the kava bars in Vanuatu, it's something terrible. There is no future for that. We drink it, but it's dishwater. Next one. Nutraceutical market. The growth was very rapid. It was a boom. The products were very expensive. The delivery system was very poor. I think that many consumers were disappointed. I think so. Because many of these people were looking for fast, anxiety-relieving compound, and the effect was not there. So although they bought a lot of the first bottle because the marketing was good, I think few of them came back for the second bottle, and I think the trend is on the decline. Next one. This is a very good example. Look at these people in France. They mix guarana. Guarana is the vine which has one of the highest caffeine content. Caffeine. And they mix it with kava. This is an example of what the nutraceutical company is doing. They don't know what they are doing. They just don't know. Okay? And then they are going to blame kava. And they are very arrogant. When they come to the South Pacific, we cannot tell them anything. We are a bunch of dummies living under the coconut trees. They don't want to discuss with us, but this is what they are doing. Next one. Pharmaceutical market. Well, the problem is the competition with benzodiazepine. Like it or not, benzodiazepines are very efficient. They're going to damage your liver, that's true, but they are quite efficient, although they are synthetic compounds. People get addicted to it. They have side effects, but they are popular. Consumers like them. They buy more and more if they can, although they know that there are side effects and whatsoever. In a way, they work. So kava has to compete. But kava, I suspect, was quite successful competing with benzodiazepine, and maybe that's part of the problem. We'll come back to that later. But still, because kava lactones are not presented with the proper delivery system, they are not as fast. Next one. Now, we can see the situation is very complex, highly complex, because now in the mind of people, kava is many things to many people. In the South Pacific, it's a panacea, traditional beverage. But for the Europeans or the Americans, kava refers to raw material, roots. Something we are going to do something with it. They don't know what they are going to do. They are going to mix it, extract it, recompose it, whatever. But this is what they have in mind when we refer to kava. They don't have in mind the traditional beverage. They have in mind the raw material. Next. The problem is access to knowledge. In the South Pacific, traditional knowledge is eroding like hell. In Western countries, very surprisingly, I think that these people are not doing their homework. If they were really doing their homework, they would not do what they are doing with kava. They would do something else for the long term. So it's quite surprising. They don't have access to the scientific data. That's surprising. There is so much available. They should understand. I think they are so attracted by a fast and easy profit that they don't want to deal with the scientific reality. Next one. Quality control is very complex too, because we are talking about a natural product. So you have to keep under control, one, the health of the plant. So we are going to enforce by law in Vanuatu that all the farmers will have to be registered organic farmers, because we want to sell something organic. We don't want glyphosates in the roots. We want something organic. So this is going to be enforced by law. We will have a list of noble variety and illegal varieties enforced by law. Farmers, middlemen, and traders will have to differentiate the different parts of the plants because we are talking about different things. Minimum tree of age, and this is very important. Geographic indicators. Where is the kava coming from? Because there is genotype-environment interaction. Next, yes?
Did you have any input into these laws yourself?
I wrote it. This is what we have to do sometimes. Sorry. Now, there is a big problem with how people look at kava. If you read the history of kava, it was always scientists versus bureaucrats, or scientists versus missionaries. When the missionaries came, they look at these people enjoying a kava bowl, ban it. They are enjoying, ban it. They should not enjoy it. Then we had the lobbies, problem with the lobbies. That's a serious problem, and these people are very good. In the pharmaceutical world, the best way of protecting your product is to tell that the other product is bad. And they do this on a regular basis, and they are very good at it. So, unfortunately, we are playing with these people, and they are better than we are. Pacific ambition. I'm talking here about the Pacific Island countries. What are we planning to do with kava? Do we really want to do something, or do we want to sell raw material to the Western countries and let them play the game? So that's a problem. I think that we have to protect the cultural heritage, but some middlemen in the Pacific want quick profit. They are not interested. So Indian middlemen in the Pacific sold tons and tons of peelings to the German laboratories. And they might be responsible for something. Next. Now, from a scientific point of view, this is the problem. From a scientific point of view, kava is an excellent product. Unfortunately, neither us in the South Pacific, neither the Western companies are using it scientifically. People are attracted by quick, easy money, or our youth are attracted by a quick, fast kick just like alcohol, and this is where the problem is. People don't want to do their homework and to protect this scientific, highly scientific knowledge that we have. Okay, next. Now, this is why we are here today, I guess. Can kava kill? My answer is no. Because when I refer to kava, I refer to the definition I gave you. Now, if you ask me, can tablets, pills, capsule made out of kava extract kill? I would say, why not? Why not? Who knows what they are doing? I'll give you an example. When you load a container full of dry kava and you export it to Germany, it takes 3 months to depart from Hamburg, from Port Vila and reach Hamburg. 3 months. When it is exported, it is at 12% humidity. It's locked in a container. Aflatoxins are enjoying the show, reproducing. It arrives in Hamburg. They're using acetone, and they extract kava lactones and aflatoxins. All this is in the Schwaber extract. Now, who is responsible for what? Kava lactones or aflatoxins? I don't know. So in my opinion, kava cannot kill. But what they do with dry roots might. I don't know. Anyway, it is sure that it's not related to the kava lactone dose. I've been drinking, my wife and myself wanted to do an experiment this year. Unlike Dr. Tang, we don't need a permit to do tests on myself. So we drank every day last year, every day, about half a liter each of us, kava lactones. And kava lactones about 600 milligrams every day. Okay, I did not lose weight. I go jogging on a regular basis. I couldn't notice anything. My wife started to have a dry skin. Not me, it was okay, but she started to have a dry skin. But it was a heavy drinking. We were getting serious about it. But anyway, so in my opinion, kava cannot kill. Next one, please. So where this German scare comes from? It's quite an interesting story because Germans have been importing kava for the last 20 years. They have been selling kava extract-based products for the last 20 years. And surprisingly, only in '98, some reports pop up. But it's not very sophisticated to produce a report. You just need an old lady to cross the street and to report. So why this report appeared only in 1998, although these pills were for sale in Germany before 1998? That's the first question. I don't have an answer for it. But it might be related to the quality of the raw material they started to buy in 1998. Because in 1998, we had the kava boom because of the American market. And the traders in the South Pacific started to increase their price. And the German company started to deal with the Indian middlemen in Fiji to buy peelings. If Vishmanii was available, they were buying it. They wanted kava lactose. So the reports, surprisingly, the reports are popping up when we had this supply problem, at the same time when we had the supply problem. Now, the causality, I will not come back to that because I think that Dennis did a great job. Go ahead. Anyway, you have this reference. Other drugs, like benzodiazepines or doxepin, have either the same or more adverse side effects. But this is one of the conclusions of a consultant, independent consultant report. Careful, guys. If you ban kava, you might create a new risk because the consumers that were taking kava will have to go back to benzodiazepine. Therefore, they will take something even more risky for the liver. Anyway, that was a side effect of the ban. Next one. Hepatotoxicity, not related to dose. It's not a case question of abuse. So where does it come from? Next. Well, some people have shown that it might be an immunoallergic mechanism because they found out that it appears at low doses with very new consumers. And this is something I have seen in the South Pacific. I think I first wrote it in '86. Some people are allergic to kava. If you're allergic to kava, stop drinking it. Some people have diabetes. If you serve them on a regular basis a drink with sugar in it, and they don't know that there's sugar in it, and they keep on drinking it every day, they might put their health in a dangerous situation. Although sugar per se is not that dangerous. It is dangerous for diabetes. So some people have a problem. Next, please. So now the challenge, according to my German friends from Schwaber Laboratories, this is what they want to do. To identify the compounds that are responsible for this and neutralize these compounds. So they are putting big money into that kind of research. Good luck. I'm not interested into their findings because they are not working on AVA. They are doing something else. And I'm not interested in what they are doing, frankly. Next, please. You can see that we are talking about two different things, and that's where the problem comes from, in my opinion. And that's why I encourage you to be very careful with the wording, how you present your labels, how you present your product, what are you referring to. Coffee has a definition, kava has a definition, and it's very important to stick to it. Next. What about if someone puts caffeine in pills and comes to Hawaii and tells you, oh, no, Kona coffee is very dangerous. This is not serious. We are talking about different products. You can drink coffee every day, but if you take caffeine pure, 100% pure caffeine in a tablet, well, good luck. But don't blame coffee. Okay? Next. Now, the situation in the South Pacific, what's going on? After all, we are an ongoing experiment. You should look at us. We are the guinea pigs. Okay? So this is what's going on. No side effects related to abuse, to use. Side effects are related to abuse. But when I say abuse, it's really something like that that one of us in this room is doing. These guys in the South Pacific can drink gallons. This is really abuse. That's what it means. When I mean abuse, it's really drinking a lot. And then they have some problems. So then they have a dry skin, lack of appetite, morning fatigue, poor performance. This is when they abuse a good variety. If the variety is bad, you don't need to abuse. You drink 1 or 2 shells and you're into trouble. But this is when you abuse a novel kava. Next one. New Caledonia is very interesting because you have a lot of good doctors around, a big haole crowd, big money around, very similar to Hawaii, so we can find out what might happen in a European country or in America. And it's true. They reported at the hospital some people having liver damage. They had few cases. Now, the number of reports was extremely low compared to the number of people ingesting liters per day. But they had them. And they did some studies, and they found out that it was probably a specific liver enzyme deficiency in few people, not in the general population. So here again, we have a product, we have the population, and we have some individuals in this population who have some problems with this product or with their general health. So we have to be careful and make sure that we don't mix everything together. We understand what's going on. Next. As I said, when all this noise started, we started to freak, and we said, oh, hang on, we are killing ourselves. Is this big scientists in Europe are telling that kava is dangerous? Maybe we are killing ourselves. So why don't we ask WHO to come to the South Pacific, conduct a study in the South Pacific, and tell us if what we are doing is right or not. So our Prime Minister and the Minister of Health wrote an official letter to WHO, telling them, could you please send a team of experts to Vanuatu to test drinkers and non-drinkers and tell us if we have a public health related problem. Well, WHO, next. WHO basically answered, sorry guys, we read your reports every year. And from your reports, we can see that you don't have a problem. We get into action when you have a problem. You don't have a problem, why should we come? If you want us to come for malaria or hepatitis B or dengue fever, we'll come. But based on your statistics that you are sending to us, you don't have a problem. So this story with the Americans and the Europeans and whatever, it's not part of our mandates. We cannot fix it for us. So we were quite disappointed. Next. They, WHO, have encountered this kind of problem elsewhere. And they suggested that the problem might come from the extraction process. Because it's not the first time that someone in an LDC, least developed country, reported to WHO to a similar case. And they told us, well, you guys are in the situation that we have seen, been there, done that before, we have seen this, and the problem might be related to the process. Next. So basically, they claim that the problem of the hepatotoxicity is debated. I'm quoting WHO. The problem is debated. Next. But up to this point, there is not enough, or there is only preliminary scientific evidence to suggest a potential liver problem related to tablets. If there is a problem, it is related to tablets and pills. It is not related to kava. This is an official letter from WHO to the Minister of Health in Vanuatu. Next. Now, what do we do? It's a big mess. We are going through a crisis. I like it, in fact. I enjoy it because I know that in the long term, it's going to be quite good for the industry. You want to promote the beverage. You want to promote, you want to sell, you want to advertise, you want to market kava. You don't want to promote kava lactose. These are two different things. So it's very important, I think, for the industry to keep in mind that what we have to promote is kava, the beverage, not the active ingredients. That's one point. Number two, we know that ava is a root crop. Carrot is a root crop. There is a market for carrot juice or tomato juice. There is even a market for noni juice nowadays. Okay, so I think that there is a big market. In fact, I'm convinced that there is a huge market for ava juice. Now, ava juice is chemically very different from the nutraceutical pharmaceutical products. Next. In other words, this means that you should follow a strategy which is very similar to what the wine growers are doing. produce your own kava juice, use geographical indicators, control the water, just like to produce a good beer, you need to control the quality of the water, bottle it, and sell it using these geographical indicators. Next one. Do not reinvent the wheel. There is so much to do, but do not disturb, just improve. Keep in mind that we are talking about something that exists for 3,000 of years. It's nothing new. It's something that we have been drinking for centuries. So start from there and try to improve it. Do not try to change the whole thing. Try to put it in a bottle, try to improve the taste, the flavor, try to reduce the oxidation, whatever. But kava is kava, just like coffee is coffee. Next one. You can improve the process. We can see that UH is quite advanced as far as cultivation techniques are concerned. That's really good. What about washing, slicing, grinding, pressing, filtering? Brewing is a science. It's also an art. It's up to you to know what you're going to do. Next. Overall, I think that you should drink local, think global. And this is the last thing I have to do. I think you have a wonderful beverage to offer to the world, but prepare it properly. Thank you.
I have a question. Earlier, when we were addressing the disease on kava, charcoal, dieback, I believe Scott was talking about some of the fungicides and pesticides that could be applied to it. Now, we're going to do that, and then we're going to produce a juice and drink it. Is there any possibility of those things ending up in this juice?
Definitely. We are promoting organic kava cultivation. In Vanuatu, farmers want to increase their production. We recommend that they should not increase the size of the plot, but they should increase the number of plots that they have under cultivation. In other words, we are promoting agroforestry systems. When you have plants, intercrop with other food crops, under trees, all these different species act as filters between pathogens and so forth, so we don't have to spray fungicide on a monocrop. You see, which is a danger. So basically, all this depends on how you cultivate it. In Ponape, it's already a problem because they are cutting down the rainforests in the highlands. They are having some problems to grow it in the lowlands. But there are some cropping systems that are being developed, agroforestry systems, that can help you to grow kava without you using all these fungicides or pesticides or whatever. It is possible. It has been done on a sustainable manner for centuries.
Thank you.
Yes.
Is there any published work on that? Or anybody have anything published on it?
Well, Klaus was showing a reprint of a page extracted from a kava cultivation
Producers guide, yeah,
Yeah.
Pacific Kava producers.
I think in that one they have some cropping systems recommended. Yes.
And actually,
Sorry.
there's a
Oh,
little
yeah, of
booklet
course.
over there that we're giving away free.
Yeah.
Kava production guide. It has a section on organic growing. And certainly, a successful organic farmer from Molokai is here in the room. Jim Henderson supplies all they know, and certainly the co-sponsors of this conference are growing kava organically. George and Barbara, you see back at the table. We've introduced earlier. We introduced Barbara, so it can certainly be done.
Yes, Dr. Tang.
So we're not applying any NPK to the ground?
Organic, you can put chicken manure, whatever. Organic.
Is a copy of the WHO letter to Vanuatu government available?
Yes, I have it in my office. I can fax it to
Are
you.
you? Yeah, I'm interested in where you're coming from. Thank you.
It's interesting in what you said earlier about aflatoxins. Is validated the kava during shipment. Don't companies like Schwab, they monitor this? They must have quality control procedures to see if there is
You would
the
be
fungus
amazed.
or the
I
toxin.
visited their warehouse in
Yeah.
Karlsruhe. You have bags of kava mixed with ginkgo from China, St. John, and these are huge warehouses. What is good for them, it's freezing outside, but it's not that clean, and they take them out of the bag and put them into their big extractors, and everything goes. So, in fact, they're interested in something. Their extract is quite interesting because the quality standards of their extracts, it's not only related to the kava-lactone content in the extract, because when you use acetone, it's not like when you use chloroform. You extract kava-lactones, but they represent only 50% of the extract. Okay, and then they talk about soluble solid or extractable solids. Okay, and in these extractable solids, I asked them, do you know what is in there? I asked to the scientist, to the analyst. He doesn't know. He doesn't know. He doesn't know what is in half of the extract that they are selling.
So this could be the problem.
Contaminated. I don't know. I don't know. I don't have any data, any evidence. I don't know. I just told them, can you do this? They say, well, we are not going to do it now because it's too late. The noise is so big that if one day there is a problem, like an immunoallergic mechanism, they will blame it on us anyway. The lawyers already read it, and they're ready for it. They will shoot at us.
Do you know that there's a website, it's called kavaliversideeffects.com, and it's put on by a group of lawyers, and it's for people specifically to go there and try and do lawsuits.
There you go.
There's actually two of them.
There's an only side too.
Yeah? For side effects.
Yes,